My name is Sanif Olek and I'm a producer, a film director and a TV showrunner. I've been in this industry since 1997. Well, you can consider me like a mini activist, social activist. But I do my work, I do my activism via filmmaking, not via carrying flags and watching march. Of course, in Singapore, right, most of the producer directors they seek TV for the bread and butter. To be honest, I realized after several years, right, that I can only do one thing. I can only be good at one thing, right? And that one thing is directing. A producer is someone who ensures that the program is run, is properly organized and properly managed. And depends on which industry, within the filming industry you are. For example, a producer who is in the film industry can be someone who actually gives the money or someone who manages the production. The executive producer in the film industry normally is the one who gives the most money, right? And also could be someone where the producer seeks to get advice with regards to things like location, things like gaining access to certain places. So normally these kind of people, right, they just want their names to be on top. So there's no other positions that we can put them, so we just put them as an EP. So in a way to acknowledge their contribution to the project, and also is more of like a goodwill kind of credit. That's a very good question, because sometimes we ourselves question who does what. But I think in a more structured kind of situation, right, the producer can be the director as well. Yeah, sometimes the producer can be working on his or her own, and then the director can be someone who is for hire. So in that sense, the director answers to the producer. But if the producer and the director owns the company, right, so basically he's just answering to himself. The only person that he answers to is the one who gives funding for the project. Okay, a showrunner is someone who convinces you that my project is worth it. Basically, he's the one who runs around during pitches, during script writing, who pushes the script writer to do some work, and also who finds the right people to make the project work. And in the process, he will communicate with the producer and the director. The showrunner could also be the one who hires the director. Of course, in Singapore, right, most of the producer directors they seek TV for the bread and butter, right? And then after that, we have maybe the other prestige projects. The prestige projects in Singapore means like you are doing corporate jobs with the ministries, with the government agencies, ministries, and corporate organizations, the big companies. And then after that, then you come to the passion projects. The majority of Singapore producer directors will just stick to the first two.
Because there's money there.
Yeah, where the money is lah. To just being practical where we are in Singapore, right? The passion projects are those, like for example me, right? I do my passion projects because there are some, I feel personally that some things need to be told. So in the Singapore context, when you make films, there is a standard structure that we follow through lah. Normally, generally, when you have a script, right, you seek producers, right? This is the assumption that the producer is someone who is not the scriptwriter lah, right? So we going through the process. So you have the script, and then you approach the producer, and then if the producer is interested, the producer will help you, work with you to go for film funding applications, or you go to film labs, right? Film labs is where you sort of meet similar people in a similar, like a class, so to speak, and that's when you sort of work on your script to make it better, right? And this is a film lab is when you have a group, a class of similar-minded people, creative people, who will comment and give advice on your script lah, how to make it better.
Is there such a thing in Singapore?
There is. Actually, the upcoming Singapore International Film Festival, they might have like a side event, like a side.
It's a class.
It's a class. It's like a 3-day session thingy lah.
Why would a producer go there?
A producer goes there because that's where you meet like-minded people, like people who understand the language, as in the filmmaking language. I mean, if you just meet, not to discredit other people, but if you just meet any other businessman, right, they might just say their reference of filmmaking is totally different genre. So when I talk about Dune, he might not understand because his reference is Mark Kilau, right? So I cannot speak to this kind of people. But when I attend these film labs, I may meet people who have the same kind of creative sense and aesthetic lah. So we can talk. But then again, of course, there'll be one or two whose film genre interest is more to that kind of films. So it's good to have them input as well. But they will be coming, I suppose, from a more commercial sense lah. But from those people who are more into the Dune kind of filmmaking, right, they will understand your artistic direction. When you attend all these film labs or even film seminars, and so you will meet, this is where you network with the right people, right? And most of the filmmakers, right, they go to film labs to gain prestige lah. For example, this film has gone to Berlin Film Lab, or this film has gone to the Torino Film Festival Film Labs, or even things like Cannes Film Lab. So in a way, it's a form of building prestige to the film which hasn't been made. So it's like when I come to you, right, I can tell you, hey, my film has gone to the Cannes Film Lab or the Berlin Film Labs, and those people in the film circles, they know the prestige of these film labs, and then they will be like more interested in your films lah. Getting the prestige for these film labs. It doesn't happen in 1 month or 2 months. It happened by 1 year, 2 years.
So you have to have that baby with you for
2 years.
2 years, or even
in your head,
more,
yeah, correct.
Before
actual filming, and then after that, it will. Okay, so all in all, you go to the film labs, the writing stage. This will take about 1 or 2 years. Like for example, me, right? I do my passion projects because there are some. I feel personally that some things need to be told. Well, you can consider me like a mini activist lah, social activist. But I do my work, I do my activism via filmmaking, not via carrying flags and watching march and you know that. So because I find that I think making films is a much more effective way to reach people, and the time period is much longer and kind of safe. You play along with the status quo lah. So in a sense. So, but then again, also I think when you make films, you can articulate your activism in the language, in the subtext, rather than an actual overt. Normally at certain periods of the year, right, the station, the network will have like an open page thingy. So that's where all the production houses will write in with the respective content that they are looking for. And then we go for the pitch, the writing stage, and this is where the producer and the writer and the show running will come in. Okay, for example, this particular year, they are looking for engagement in cross-cultural marriage, for example, right? So for that particular year, right, they are looking for any content that has got cross-cultural marriages element, right? So if you notice, like maybe for that particular year, right, you got, how come like all these channels got all this, suddenly got all these cross-cultural themes, marriages and stuff in that channel or in that network. So that's it. So going back to your question, whether the idea is stolen or whatever. Of course, for those disgruntled producers, right, who never get selected, they will just put it out there. Oh, they copy my idea and all that. But then again, when you get down to it, right, actually what happened was that the idea was already set in the first place when the station pitches open up for pitches. Okay. Yeah. I do both television and film. So in a sense, for when I'm a producer, right, and showrunner for television, I'm the one who write the concept, and who approach TV stations, networks, and just basically convincing the people out there that my program is something that is of value to the audience lah. To be honest, I realized after several years, right, that I can only do one thing. I can only be good at one thing, right? And that one thing is directing. But I will also produce and write maybe at the beginning stage of the production, right? But when the production happens, when the heat of the thing happens, right, I would just focus on being a director. Whereas, so I will have the producer and the writer and all that to do their own work. But I will still have a hand in the things like the storyline and all that lah. So that doesn't mean that I totally negate my responsibility from the writing and all that. I still, because for example, when I direct, right, I need to believe in the writing, in the script. So that's when I give my input to the writing lah. What happened is that normally, right, when we have projects with organizations lah, the payment comes in tranches. Okay. Yeah, tranches. So I think it's quite general, where before upon sign on, right? Upon sign in the contract, we get like a certain percentage.
20%, 30%.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, correct. And then after that, when we actually starts the actual production, there's another percentage. Okay. And then after that, maybe when we finish shooting halfway, there's another percentage. And then when we finish the next half of the project, finish filming only, so there's another percentage. Then when we pass the first 3 episodes or something, 3 projects, something, when we actually pass maybe the offline of the first, depending whether you are doing TV or corporate. So the first offline or maybe the first 3 or 4 episodes, you get another tranche, and then maybe when you complete the whole thing, there's another tranche. In Singapore, I think the production industry is very small, regardless whether Malay, Chinese or Indian, right, is very small. And then when you are in the TV industry, director or producer in the TV industry, it's like after a while you sort of know one another, and then when you know one another, you sort of like know your own standards. Okay. It's like, for example, when you attend TV awards, right, you meet the same people, then meet the same thing, and then talk about the same thing, blah, blah, blah. But when you attend film festivals, it's a different thing. And when you are the film director as a filmmaker in a film festival, right, it's a totally different kind of vibe. How different? For the most part, I think when you attend film festivals, right, the idea is that because it's an international film festival, you don't meet the same people. You meet like random people from all over the world, right? So when you meet them, I think there's this sense of camaraderie is much more stronger due to the fact that you have actually finished a film. So what happened was that when you meet filmmakers from all over the world, you see the film process is different from the TV process. The film process, you remember when I said about the 2-3 year thingy? And the fact that they all come together and they all have gone through the same process, the same kind of hardship, right? So there's this sense that when I look at you, I say, okay, you have gone through this. So it's like me going to the commandos, right? We kind of know what we have gone through. So that in that sense, the bond is closer. So when we meet other filmmakers, right? We sort of like, okay, you have gone through the process and sort of like, so the appreciation for that process is much more, I think. So in a sense, we sort of like, yeah, we go to the film festivals because we appreciate what your experience was when you go through these 2 or 3 years or 4 years of filmmaking. So I think that have a lot more, I don't know, empathy. Especially when making films, right, you tend to have all these ideas. Sometimes it gets convoluted. So you just got to be like, we have this thing called, what is the log line? So if you cannot explain your story in one line, right, that means you don't know what you're telling about. I get super random remarks from the public that I totally don't know. Like, I think that's very kind enough of them to sort of come towards me. And I think when, just at the time when you thought that, you know, your faith in humanity is no more, right? And then you have these people coming to you and sort of like appreciate your work.
What do they say?
They say things, things like, I've always seen you, I've heard of you, but I haven't seen you yet. And I like this particular work that you have done and how they have, how the work has impacted them. They actually like elaborated. So I was like, oh really? Okay. I mean, I really appreciate that that they're coming, because it's different when the comments come from your own peers and the public, who totally have no context of what you're doing. Yeah, I have a blog. Okay, I can be reached on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, X Twitter, on Threads, and some other agencies, because when you Google, there's lots of things coming up. realjuice.blogspot.com.
Okay, and your company is Real Juice?
Yeah, correct. Well, I think telling stories is an ongoing thing. Yeah, correct. I just want to see where I stand. I mean, if I'm still alive, I don't know, like 20 years time or something.